Hello, and welcome to Adventures in Dolls, the United Federation of Doll Clubs YouTube channel. My name is Karen, and I'm your host today. Today's program is by Fred Patton. He is the Secretary Treasurer of UFDC, and the title of the program is French Fashions. Please leave us any comments you may have in the comment section below. We're always glad to hear from you. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our program. So you don't miss your next adventure in dolls. Let's watch French Fashion by Fred Patton.
The French fashion doll, and we're going to touch in this subject a little bit on the German fashions, but mainly the French fashion doll. But I love to begin this program because it's my favorite subject, and I like to begin it with a few questions. So I do need some answers, so you may have to unmute yourself to answer the questions. The first question is, what is a French fashion doll?
Is it a doll made by a French manufacturer?
That is correct. It is made by a French manufacturer. And as we said, there are some German dolls that competed against the French in the early years. Does anybody else have an answer?
They're lady dolls usually.
Usually lady dolls. We sometimes will refer to the Jumeaus and the Brews as fashions because their clothing and the bebes were quite frou-frou-y. What about anyone else have an answer?
Are they in a period of time?
They do classify in a period of time, and that was one of my questions. What period of time do you think they come from? But we'll save that question, so think about that answer. Are they a work of art?
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes, they are.
Meant to
is it something
reflect.
that we can all own? That's not a loaded question.
You can get reproductions.
You can get reproductions, that's correct. But really, since the beginning of time with the French fashions, they were not something everyone could own. They've always been a little out there in price. So when we look at them, we'll go over some of the reasons that they were very popular for only the upper class because of the expenses of them. Okay, and that answered my question number 2. Can everybody afford a French fashion doll? Well, the answer is no, because some of them get very hefty in price. Who do you think, or who do you think were the main manufacturers of French fashion dolls?
Jumeau?
Jumeau, yes.
Hooray.
Hooray.
Gautier.
Gautier.
Roma.
Romer.
Barrois.
Barrois. One that you're missing that was one of the top 3, in my opinion.
Wait.
We think
Romer.
of it,
Oh, no. Never mind. Sorry. Is it? No, not Romer.
no, we covered Romer already.
Okay.
It starts with a B.
The Brew?
The Brew. Okay. In classifying and researching, you're going to find that the 3 companies that really pop up the most that we see are Jumeau, Gautier's, and Brews. So we will look at those in depth in just a moment. And the question was already asked, is there a time period of these French fashion dolls? Are they from 1865 to 1890?
Yes.
1850 to 1890? Or 1800 to 1920? That's an A, B, C answer. A, 1865 to 1890, 1850 to 1890, or 1800 to 1920?
1800, C?
B,
Okay,
A,
B.
A.
C.
Okay. When we get into this, we're going to see that the majority of what we classify as French fashion dolls come from the time period 1865 to basically 1880, which was not a choice, but you get a little span there. We do have a few dolls of the 1850s, and we have a few dolls of the 1890s. And then when we flip into the 1900s, our French fashion dolls kind of become, they're no longer around because the companies have all joined and formed the SFBJ. So they become more on the German side as opposed to the French side. You guys did really good. So I have to ask my questions because now we're going to cover all of these topics as we go along. The French fashion dolls, as someone pointed out, you can have reproductions in them, and these make them affordable to everyone. This is a reproduction of a portrait Jumeau from about 1870s. It was done in the size of a 29-inch for the Paris Exposition of 1867 in that area. 1867 Paris Exposition. The doll was 29 to 36 inches tall, and it was a showstopper at that exposition. This is a portrait Jumeau, and she is a very special portrait Jumeau. The portrait Jumeau heads, as we get into it, this head went from the time period of the late 1860s when it was developed, and it went through to the Bebe era. So it went through to the 1880s. Same head, just on different bodies. The first bodies we're going to talk about tonight are the wooden body French fashions. This doll is a Jumeau on a wooden body. The wooden body is over on the left side of the screen. It is kid leather covered. It is not a deluxe French fashion wooden body. It's just the regular wooden body that Jumeau used. You will notice that it has lovely bisque arms at the bottom there of its hands and lower arms are all bisque, and its feet are all bisque. So it's quite a lovely doll. This doll was my one and only wooden body doll that I convinced myself about when I retired from teaching, because I took my part of my sick days that the school district paid me for, because I had 112 sick days when I retired, and they paid me at my daily rate of pay because that was the thing that I signed on when I started teaching. So I bought this French fashion doll, and that was the only one I was going to have. Is that a true statement?
No.
But before then, I had some French fashion dolls, but not on a wooden body. That was the cream of the crop for me. So I did get this one when I retired from teaching. As you know, I stated in the very beginning where we're going to look at some German dolls that were produced to against the trade of the French. And this is a Simon and Halbig German fashion lady dolls of the late 1860s. Has beautiful bit, a beautiful face, a wooden body that is covered in cloth. So it's covered in a twill material, and it kind of is the same time period of the doll before that was covered in leather. So it competes with the same time period. This doll and the doll that you just saw on the screen in the blue are both the exact same size. They're both 15.5-inch French fashion doll, 15.5-inch wooden lady dolls, because this one is not French. It was just for the French market. The FG, as we said, or the Gautier, this on a wooden body is example over on the left side of your screen. This body is still not the deluxe wooden body, but please notice the hands. The hands are bisque. placed up on the wooden body that creates quite a difference in the doll having those porcelain hands. This doll is roughly 23 inches tall on this wooden body, and she is quite when she's sitting out in the open, she is quite lovely to behold. The size, for one thing, but she's just overall a lovely doll. This is the Giesland body. This body is a wire armature in the inside. It is wrapped in cotton batting, and then it is put into a jumpsuit, like you see in the picture here, that's of a cotton knit material that is stretched over that cotton wrapped armature, clamped at the knees and the wrist. The thing with these, I have about 3 or 4 of these dolls in my collection. And you see the bottom leg is all this. They are absolutely gorgeous feet and legs on these dolls. And the hands are gorgeous only from the wrist down. The problem with these is being stored and made in the 1870s, 1860s. What happens to the components on the inside when they're armature and they've got joints at the elbow, at the wrist, at the knees, at the hips, at the shoulders? Corrosion happens, so they have rust. Like I said, I have 3, and none of the 3 has they move, but they don't move freely. And so you have to work with them gently, because if you went to move them quickly, you would probably break the interior armature body, because I don't think it could withstand, because being stored with that cotton batting wrapped around that metal, any moisture that it would have gained over the years would have caused the corrosion to set in. The FGs. The FG4s have to be one of the most gorgeous dolls that I think. I guess the reason I'm going to tell you this is because I own 5 of them. And so all but one of them did I realize that I had another doll like her, because they're all painted different. So I was looking at the painting and the face and the overall presence of these dolls when I bought them. So it never sunk into me that they all had a 4 on the back of their head and on the shoulder plate. So, as I said, I have 5 of them. This one I call my hook brow, because if you look at her brows, they have a little arch and a little hook to them. Beautiful, pale disc. But the brows there are just really set with that little arch to them that I really like. This is an FG4, same head as the one before. Do you see the difference in the 2? This one has a darker, the painting on the face skin tone is darker, but look at the brows, much heavier, not light, not airy. They are heavily painted. So this is probably a later version of the first one that I showed you, but it's the same head, a different paint job creates a different look in the doll. She is also on a wooden body, which was another reason that I bought her, for the FG on a wooden body. And as you see, now we're up to number 3 that I have on a wooden body, and it was going to be 1, if you remember. Actually, this is number 4 on a wooden body that was going to be 1. This is an FG that she's on a leather body, but notice the brows on this one. Very light, very arched, but very faint, very light strokes, totally different look from the other 2. Very pretty doll. As I said, I get drawn to the FG4s very quickly. This is my last FG4 I'm going to share with you. If you will notice again, this one has the same, what I call hook brows on it. Very, very similar to the very first one I showed you. I really believe comparing these 2 dolls, side by side. They're probably painted by the same artist because everything about the face is really almost the same between very pale, very light looking, very lovely bisque on these dolls. This doll, I knew I was buying a replica of the first one when I bought it. The reason I bought this doll and had to have this doll, she came with her original trousseau with history documenting the trousseau. So I had to have her for the trousseau. And this is a look of her trousseau. You see here, you see she has a black lace cape. She has a black velvet hat there on one. She has the white work in the back. And as we go to the next photo, you will see she has a fancy walking dress. The gray is a coat. There is a day dress, a blue, another one in the background there is a blue day dress. Now, the problem is that I've had this doll probably almost 10 years. I don't think this doll has ever had this white muslin costume off of her. She has shaped in time with moisture. The body has formed and the clothing, the arms of the dress, top, the jacket are formed to the arms. You cannot move them up. You cannot move them at all because of the swelling that has occurred with the sawdust on the inside getting damp over time. So until it totally shreds this beyond history, she will be in this costume until, well, she'll be in it through my time of owning her, and I don't know how far on because cotton will hold up longer than most fabrics. This is an FG black fashion doll. What is the very first thing you notice
she's
about
gorgeous.
this black fashion doll?
She has white hands.
She's what? The white body.
Yeah.
Some have said that they used the white body and they stained them black for the doll. I have gone over this one totally. I see no signs of stain on it to create the black appearance. So I think she was placed on the white body, dressed and sold quickly. They were trying to turn the dolls at the time this one was made. This is a very late FG fashion doll. She also has painted eyes. The black fashions are kind of a little hen's teeth. They're hard to come by. They don't happen every day of the week. So I'm really like having her in my collection. Now we're going to go to the portrait Jumeaus. The portrait Jumeaus have exquisite dolls. The first one I'm going to show you is one that they do call their portrait Jumeau. She has very light painting. She's almost as white as she can be. Very fine brows, excellent lips and everything. This is the doll that they started in the 1865, and this doll went with Jumeau all the way through until Jumeau closed. They kept making this doll. When it came time and the Bebes hit the market, they took this head, smacked it on the Bebe body, increased the size of the brows, and kept making the doll and kept producing it. It was a model that they totally used. These dolls are out there both ways, and they usually have a little price tag with them. There are quite exquisite dolls in the doll market. This is the exact same doll that you just saw, the exact same size of the doll you just saw, but this one is in its original dress, original costume, and please notice that her brows are heavier. So she is a later period than the first one. She is still very pale, but she is darker than the first one in complexion. And I want you to notice something very special about the costume. I believe that they probably were running out of material when they made this costume. Because if you look from the top of the jacket to the little tail on the jacket, they have turned the material to where it is not running with the grain. So where you see the stitching across, I think they turned the pattern or mistakenly turned the pattern the wrong direction to show it to sew it to cut it out, and thus when they sewed it on over the time, the way the garment has collected the dust mites and things has shown that it is running a different grain of the material. So I think the bottom half is probably on the cross grain or the bias of the material, where the top is running with the grain. It's one way or the other, but you can see the difference, the way the material has aged.
Huh.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Just, I have a background in sewing, and just from what I've read about doll clothes, maybe not for French fashion, but scraps were used and things were, maybe they had a limited amount of fabric and purposely cut it on the other grains so they could use the fabric. I don't know if it
That's
is
what
a
he
dress
said.
that was made, if it's the original dress. Do you
It
know?
is the original dress, and you are correct. They did have, they were given X number of material and told, because it was cottage industry, and told to make the fashion. Usually on the French fashions, though, they didn't spare. If they had run out, usually they didn't. If they didn't have enough to cut out the dress, they usually would go to the next piece of material. It's what I've seen in or read in the history. I think on this one is somebody got in a hurry. It is a later one, so I think it was cut. Like you said, limited amount of material, thus they made it work. Where it would have been just as easy to cut it off where the material ended and they sewed that piece on and just done a different style of garment. But, they were going to stick to the pattern. This is a French fashion this is the exact same head as the other two and the same size as the other two. And you will notice she is on a wooden body. She is a later version. She's probably 1875 to 77. She has a little slightly heavier brow, beautiful complexion on this doll, but she is on what they call the deluxe fashion body. Deluxe wooden fashion body. And let's look at why it's deluxe. We'll start at the hands. Do you notice her lower hands has a wrist movement? We move up to her elbows, and her elbows have the movement, or joints, or pivots. You go up just a little past the elbow. You see those lines across on both sides? That is another pivot that the arm could move. So you could not only pose the arm in front, but if you wanted to turn the arm and face the arm out to cast a movement of the arm like she was gesturing or something, you would turn it here at this joint. She had the shoulder joints, the hip joints, and then we look, she has an upper thigh joint. So this allowed you, when you got it on the stand, if her feet were turning inward, you didn't have to maneuver it. You could just twist the whole leg right there at that joint, would allow that leg to straighten up. It also allowed for other movements with the lower leg. And then she has the knee joint. So this is the deluxe wooden version of doll body, wooden body. And it's quite a unique body. It's a unique doll. I've had a lot of fun costuming the doll. She doesn't have as many costumes as a lot of my dolls may end up with, but she is a fun one to costume at 21 inches.
Mm.
As I started out the program at the beginning, I told you about the portrait Jumeau that was used at the exposition of the 1867. This is the portrait Jumeau. This is one of the ones that was at the exposition. She is 28 inches tall. She's quite a lovely doll. And look at the brows. Look at the elongated face on the doll. It is not round. It is very elongated. It's a completely different look that Jumeau went for at this exposition. She's a gorgeous, gorgeous doll. Now we're going to talk about the Brews. Brew only did 2 dolls, 2 fashion faces. not two dolls, but two fashion faces. We call it the early brew and the smiling brew. The early brew has the rounder face. It has a fuller face, rounder face, and looks much like the portraits or the FG dolls that were out at the same time. We're roughly looking at this as the 1860s because of the fat face, shorter neck. Brew put their fashion dolls on three bodies. They put them on a leather body. They put them on a leather body with wooden arms, and they put them on an all wooden body. The unique thing about Brew that no one else did with their bodies, they put a ball in the waistline, and it's a ball. So it allowed this doll to move, twist, whatever. And it has a lot of movements. They also, on their wooden bodies, did an ankle joint or an ankle pivot. Jumeau did not use an ankle, neither did FG. Brew was the one that did the ankle joints on the dolls. And you will always notice on a Brew doll, their collar that connects their heads to their body, be it leather or wooden, are always cut with a U. And it is a U cut that fastens them down. The other ones used a boat neckline, but Brew did the square cut line. This is another version of the doll that you just saw. Oh, the one in the first picture I just showed you is 13.5 inches. This one is 15 inches. She is on a leather body with wooden arms. So if you look over here at the side photo, you see the wooden body of Brew and you see the leather body of Brew. But both have the wooden arms on these dolls. So he is noted for that. So if you see it with a doll with a square cut line and wooden arms, it's more than likely a Brew unless there's been a marriage of the head. The smiling Brew, the first one you notice is very solemn looking. The smiling Brew is the one that people know it instantly because of the little faint smile, or they sometimes refer to it as the Mona Lisa smile. Some have more smiling or a deeper smile than others. This doll is 10.5 inches tall, and it is the smallest Brew fashion that Brew did make. This doll I used as my companion doll as an RD. So wherever I traveled, she traveled with me, and she got a new costume because I do like the costume. That's my thing, is the clothing. So she would get a new costume for every event we attended. When I purchased the doll, the leather body was not the best condition. It was okay to stand up in the cabinet, but it was not okay to travel and change costumes, everything. So I sent the original body to the company that was called Create a Doll or Create a Doll Body or something. They made a leather one that was a replica of the body. So I put the head on the replica for the 3 years as an RD, but she is back on original body now. And these show 3 examples of the Brew doll. The one in the aqua material is a Brew on an all leather body with leather arms. She is 15.5 inches. The one in the center is a leather body with wooden arms, and she's 13.5 inches. And the end one is a complete leather body smiling Brew. All 3 are smiling Brews, and she is 28 inches. So they have a wide range. The 28-inch one can pose for any type of pose you want to do with her. She's a wonderful posing. She does have some issues. She has less fingers than normal. So she's fingers have gotten broke on that wooden body, but hey, I'll take it. Here's the Hooray that someone mentioned earlier. The Hooray is really the original French fashion, although it was not considered to be an adult lady, it was considered to be a 13-year-old child. It was put on the gutta perch body. It was dressed in enfantine clothes. It was a teenager of the day. And so it was dressed in the latest fashion in French fashions of that time period of the 1850s forward. This is the first generation Huray. It is the China head version with the painted eyes. I was so excited to be able to get this doll. She has a wooden body because her gutta perch body disintegrated. And so she is on a wooden body. And when I got her,
Fred, you're muted.
when I got her, I decided I would make a costume for each season for her. So I wanted one for all 4 seasons, and then I wanted a party dress, and that was what I was going to make for her. Well, we are now 12 years after I got her, and she has 154 costumes. So I kind of stuck to my rule of thumb with her. But I had a lot of fun sewing for her because there's so many things you can do with her and the different costumes. No, she has not had them all on except to fit. Most of them are in a box. But I have my favorite ones, and she does change her costume almost monthly and is always in a display. And if you've seen other programs from me, you've seen her in those programs. This is the Romer from the same time period of the Ray that you just saw. This is 1860, and this is the body of the Romer. The Romers had a unique body. They had the 3/4 inch arms with porcelain hands, the ball and socket at the shoulder, a ball and socket at the knees, but a gusseted hip. You see the 2 eyelets in the body. Those had a ribbon that came out. And so when you wanted to have the doll in a seated position, you would take the ribbon. On the end of the ribbon were little hooks, and you would hook those hooks into the kneecap of the body so it would stay in the seated position. Did this work? No, because you had too many layers of clothes to get under to get it all hooked together. Times she had her pantalettes on and her slips on and her chemise on and her dress on and her hoop on and 3 or 4 slips. You couldn't get to the ribbon to hook it on to the knees. So it was a pattern that Romer tried, but it did not succeed. Now I'm going to move quickly through some other French manufacturers during time. Blanc-Plaques was from the same time era. They did bis dolls and they did China dolls. They're from the 1860s era also. They did them with lower arms of China or lower arms of leather. This is also another one. I have not determined if this is Blanc-Plaques or another company, but she is a wooden body with lower bisque arms. She's quite fun. She's from the same time as my Huray. So I do keep her and the Huray in a scene a lot of the time together in scenes in my window sill that I keep them in, and a lot of times the China Romer because they're all 18 inches. And being the same size, they get to share the same dresses. So all of those 154 dresses aren't wasted. They are shared between 6 dolls I have at that size. This is a Barquois. To me, Barquois are absolutely gorgeous dolls. Their bisque painting and everything is just gorgeous. Very, very pretty dolls. The first one I showed you was a regular socket head. This is a cup and saucer. This means his head can only turn like an owl's head, side to side. Cannot turn 360. It can only turn from one side to the other side. And we refer to that as a cup and saucer. This is a black Barquois. It has lower bisque arms, and its body is black. So it is completely, and it is a stained black body. Doliac is another company that had gorgeous dolls. They did not make their dolls. Their dolls were produced by another company, their heads, and they bought the heads from them and they bought the bodies from someone else and they put them together and sold it. But Doliac only used this head, this face for his dolls, and they range in size. The one in the greenish colored dress is 15.5 inches. The one in the white dress is 18 inches. And there is a reproduction version of this doll on the market. The green colored dress, the story behind this doll is someone went to Paris in 2014, and you always know when you go to Paris, you have to go to the flea market. And this doll was found in the flea market at Paris and came home in my lap on the plane because I wasn't going to let it go in shipping. I carried it in a little bag, and then it stayed in my lap most of the way home because I had to protect it because I had gone to Paris, gone to the Paris flea market and found a French fashion doll, which meant it was utopia for me. This is a Dihor. These dolls are the same as the Doliac. They did not make their heads. They were produced by a porcelain manufacturer. They did use the same head like Doliac for their dolls. They had a wide range of sizes. The key with Dihors was he invented the mechanism that went in the doll's head that allowed that doll to shake its head and say yes, turn side to side, say no, but also could turn its head around to both sides and swivel his head. So he is noted in history for his neck movement, not his doll, and or body or selling of dolls or anything. He is known to create that mechanism that goes in the neck of the doll that allows the doll to have more motion in its head. And we'll hear dolls say, "Oh, this is a Doliac." If it's not this face, it's not a Doliac, a Dihor. If it's not this face, it means the doll is using the Dihor mechanism in its neck. The Simone, these are gorgeous dolls. Simone did not make their dolls. Again, they made heads and bodies, put them together because they were a toy shop and they put them out to sell. So they were a seller of toys. But through history, we always thought because they have a label on them, on their bodies, that the shop put on the body that says Simone. And until we could study it, and thanks to Mr. and Mrs. Thamir, they were the ones that found where it's documented that they were a shop. They were not a doll manufacturer. Crochet is another doll company that's very interesting. They did not make their heads. Again, they patented the body. You will notice on this body, from the waist to the knees is leather. There is a wooden rod that goes from the hips to the knees. There's nothing around that wooden rod, and it allows that doll to have a walking motion. It is also known as the baggy pants doll because the leather is not touching anything. It's free form. So it's just covering that upper wooden leg. So it gives it that movement. They also used metal for the upper arms. This doll has lost its original arms. These are replaced arms because you can tell because of the way the leather is at the end of the arm to hook it to the upper arm. But the upper arm is metal. The lower arms would have been metal down to the hand, and the hand would have been a bisque hand. or it could have been a metal hand, either way. But it's a gorgeous doll at 13.5 inches. Her man, or he was noted, this is a Jumeau head. He developed a wooden body in the late 60s. The neat thing about his body, all of his joints are put together with screws. So they're wood screws. So everywhere there's a joint on this doll, there's a little wooden screw that screws into the wood to make the joints stay together. They're not glued in place, they are screwed in place. So that's the thing of him. The Cordonniere is a very interesting company. They are very, very loyal to the French fashion market. These dolls came out in 1890. The market was over 1880s. I'm sorry, 1880s. The market had passed for the French fashion dolls. This was a husband and wife team, and their goal was to have a statuette doll. Do you notice how rigid the body was? They dressed the doll in costume, and it was made to stand in your living room as a statue or like a disfigurine and be admired from that way. They believe there's only roughly, maybe 100 or so dolls made. They were very difficult to dress because of the bent arm, and the company came in so late into the French manufacturing time period, they sunk every dime they had into this doll, and it didn't succeed. It bankrupted them basically, and they went under, and the reason there are so few of these dolls made. This is face version 1. The other version is of a laughing head, very big smile like she's laughing. I've seen one in my lifetime of the laughing head that was on this body. And until a month ago, I had never seen the laughing one, but I did see it a month ago. So it's quite interesting. This is the lady Tate. This is the Tate Jumeau lady doll. Jumeau's decided in 1890 the Bebe craze was so wild, and that's all everybody was buying. But yet it was after 12 years, it was beginning to decrease. They thought they could bring back the lady doll and revive their company with the lady doll. What they ended up doing was they took portions of the baby doll, the arms and the legs, and used them. But they had a body made that is very shapely, hourglass figure, and put the baby arms and legs on it, and used the Tate Jumeau head. It did not go over. Its proportions are correct, but yet it just didn't hit with the people. So it is a baby head with baby arms and legs with an adult lady body. These are pretty hard to find, and like the Tate Jumeau dolls, they have a pretty high price tag that comes with them. This is, I can't remember the name of this company. It was for a while, it was thought to have been made by Jumeau, but it was not made by Jumeau. It's Lorania and company out of France that made it, and this was made after 1900. This is another one of their versions by the Lorena, and again, it is around 1910 that they made this doll. This is the Provost Jumeau. This was the third owner of the Jumeau company. She made these dolls in 1904 and until the factory closed completely in 1939. They are not pretty dolls. She was basing her dolls upon the name Jumeau. They still carry a nice price tag because of the Q-Ray connection. As we spoke earlier, the SFJ 238, again, is a character face that was used both for bebés and lady dolls. And this is a factory version with basically the head that went both directions on a lady body. And these dolls not only come on a lady body, but they come on a teen body as well. And this is my collection of 13.5-inch dolls that I have in a French salon. And so you see, we have all of the dolls that you've seen here in this program, and they're all 13.5 inches. And this is the other side of that display that I keep, that I enjoy, just like they're in their own little salon having a little gathering. And this was our final slide that I'm going to share with you. And I would like you to scan the array of dolls here, and I want you to study it closely for just a moment. In this mixture, there are 2 reproduction dolls. The rest are all antiques. Can you select the ones that are reproduction? Does anybody have a clue? Did I get disconnected?
The one with the sort of let's see, 1, 2, 3 for the fourth from the right with the pink and green and that hat, maybe?
At the very back?
No, in the front. Just to the left of where, yeah, that one right there.
This is a Doliac reproduction. It is.
How about the very last doll?
This one here in the orangey look,
No, the other end.
this peach one
No, in the back.
in the back, that is a reproduction portrait Jumeau.
Got it.
Those are the 2 reproductions. Do they fit well with the antiques? I think so.
Oh, yes.
They blend in quite well, and there is not one thing wrong at all with adding a reproduction doll to your collection, as long as you're honest and say they're reproductions. But they blend in well, they display well, and I have a lot of fun with my reproduction ones as well as my antique ones. And that's the end of my share here.
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed French fashion. We'd like to especially thank Fred for supporting us with this program. We appreciate it. If you're not already a UFDC member, I really think you should become one. Go to ufdc.org, O-R-G, and go to membership, sign up. And when you do, be sure you tell them that Karen sent you. Thanks so much for your support, and we'll see you next time.